So first let's define what you mean, because you look at average salaries, how they go up and down. Do you look at benefits, gross, net?
No, we're actually looking at a net salary, if you wish. That is after your taxes have been taken away, and that is after your medical aid and your pension has been taken. So it's a salary paid into your bank. And for about 1 in 8 South Africans in the formal sector, we know there's a garnishing order as well, whether it is for debt or whether it is for a maintenance of a child.
Yes.
That also gets taken off before normally at the employer level, before the salary reaches the bank. So, and some people pay off maybe student loans and the like as well. So this is the take-home salary, if you wish, that people get in their bank account.
Okay, so in April, this salary grew by 7.3. It's now slowed growth to 6.7. But that's well above inflation coming in today at 6.1. So is this good or bad news?
It is, in a way, good news, but I think we've also got to be mindful that inflation last year was lower, and therefore the increases this year are based on last year's lower inflation rate. So we do expect that the numbers are not going to be 1 or 2% above the rate of inflation, which they were last year. We think it's going to be, on average, probably much less than 1%, which is what this month shows us.
And I guess you need a balance. You want salaries to keep up with inflation, but not to go well beyond, because then we have a problem. It pushes up inflation. Are we achieving that balance?
Yeah, I think we are, in a broader sense, we're achieving that balance. We must just say, these are formal sector salaries as well. So this is not the person selling stuff on the street corner or cutting hair or whatever. But what is very interesting to note is that there's been a clear slowdown in salary growth, I think, in South Africa in the last 4 years. And this is, at stages we had very high above inflation increases, and it is slowing. So I think we're reaching a better balance now because the economy is under pressure. I wouldn't want salaries to really go wild like they did in 2009 and 10 when the economy, so fewer people got the benefits of the economic growth. Right now, it means that people are getting some benefit, but they're not getting a massive benefit, and we don't have an economy growing. So that's where we are.
This is so interesting, because you actually give a figure of the average take-home salary, about 13,000 rand, which seems high because it's take-home, but this is skewed by your high earners, isn't it? What is the picture?
Yeah, we do cut it off at 100,000 rand per month, which is very few people, but we see and so on. But what we've seen is that the biggest category was always between 6 and 10,000. It's now become between 10 and 25,000. I know that's bigger, but it just shows you that there's a move in people in the last 4 years from the bottom up. And that's been a very interesting movement. And I think we must realize that our salaries are salaries of the formal sector where we can trace that it's a salary payment. So these are actual electronic records. So it is a very good reflection as to what people in, say, medium, big companies and some smaller companies receive in the formal sector.
And it seems like less people earning, I think you said less than 4,000.
Yes, there's been a clear drop in the bottom part, and that seems to be very often more the weekly wage earners. And we've certainly now got to the stage where that's only about 16% of the people get less than 4,000 rand out. And one also gets the idea that maybe garnishing orders are now people, especially on the debt side, they're calming down on issuing those orders after the Wendy Applebaum judgment or the judgment that Wendy Applebaum sponsored in Stellenbosch. And I think that we'll have to see how that plays out the next year, but I suspect that number will drop even further.
Let's go into that, because that is good news. Before Marikana, they said a lot of the miners were struggling because these garnishee orders were wiping out their salaries. So you mean we have got that under control, though you still said 1 in 8?
Yes, we believe it was about 1 in 7, and it may have been higher, and that 1 in 7 was about 2008. That was just after the credit boom. So that shows you how big it was. Now we know that there's a rise in divorces and so on, where garnishing orders also come through. But from the debt side, we think that that is coming under better control. And the system has changed to where there's debt counselling. And debt counselling means that the people don't go under sort of the garnishing, the debt judgment and that type of stuff. So that's a very big change. And that does change the sort of take-home pay that people get. And I think we've got to also realize that there are other commitments after the money lands into the bank of most people. Some people paying off their houses or cars or their furniture or whatever it may be. And then most of us, we have commitments to pay a school fee. When you're in the formal sector, you're in the top 40% of earners in South Africa quite easily, and those are the schools that are allowed to charge school fees. So typically the formal sector earner is got commitments like school fees, like electricity, like water. All those sort of things get paid. It's very difficult to say to someone, well, I work for the municipality and I'm indigent, I cannot afford water and lights. That's not going to fly. So these are the people that have a lot of commitments also after their salary is paid into the bank.
Finally, what does this mean for the big debate about minimum wages? Because it seems to me, I'm for a minimum wage. I don't think it'll have a huge impact. And do you agree with me that this suggests the same? A lot of people are earning enough. It's unemployment that's a problem.
The most people earn enough. I think the fact is where you put that level of the minimum wage. If you put the level at 6,000 Rand, that might create problems even for the formal sector. We know that domestic workers only earn just over 2,000 Rand. So we might have to have like 3 or 4 minimum wages in a country such as South Africa to make sure that we don't have job losses. So there will be, say, a minimum wage for farm workers and domestics. And there are certain areas where a minimum wage won't play a big role because the informal economy by its very nature, a person working for himself selling loose cigarettes on the street corner is not going to be doing that for a minimum wage. He's doing that for survival.
All right, thank you so much for your analysis. Mike Schussler from economist.co.za.